hear me now?
Hold on, unmute you. All right, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
No. I can see your little meter working, though. I refreshed my page and everything.
I'm doing everything on mine.
All right, hold on a sec. Let me try something else. All right, try again.
Hello.
I can see your...
Hello. Like, you can see that the green mic says it's on.
Okay, I think I got it here. Hold on one second. I think I found the switch.
And I can hear you. Perfect.
Yeah. All right, I should be able to hear you now.
What about now?
Yeah, I got you.
What was the issue?
Just a button on my end. But now I gotta figure out.
Awesome. All right.
Testing 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Who do you have coming on today?
Nobody. Oh my god, my computer it knows when I'm gonna go live. It's so amazing it knows how to do that.
What? That the powers that be, because you're bringing on.
Literally, my computer just went to 100%, and it's been on for 2 hours at 50%.
I'm telling you, you're being hacked. I'm not joking. I'm not playing. You are bringing on real people. Like people who are nationally recognized.
Hold on one second. I got to try and get something else in my ears here. Go ahead and keep talking, would you?
None. They're trying to. This is not
I
like
don't
so.
hear you yet because I'm just changing something up here, changing something up. Why don't I hear you?
There's a movie out. It's an actual foreign movie. It's a foreign movie. I saw it. I think it was banned in America. Right. I was actually shocked that it was banned in America.
Testing 1 2 1 2.
Hello, can you hear me?
Preview.
Can you hear me or no? So there was a movie that was banned.
There you are.
Hello?
Keep talking.
All right. So I was saying that.
Where you went? Hold on. Keep talking there, Pedro.
Can you hear me now?
Keep talking. I don't hear you yet.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa.
Testing 1 2. Why doesn't that sound come through? Testing 1 2. All right, I got you.
All right, awesome. So there was this movie. It was banned in America, and
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be with you shortly.
Nah, I'm just be. Can they hear me?
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to DYOR Live. I will be with you in just a moment. Just getting a little housekeeping done behind the scenes here, ladies and gentlemen. My comment extension disappeared. Great. I love it. I love how this thing works. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as they say, let's get this show started. It is, let's see. All I can say is that it's July 11th. We're in July already. And for those of you watching, we're streaming on YouTube today and LinkedIn. I don't have the backup Twitter Spaces going today. I'm back in Chicago and don't have everything all set up yet. We'll have that the rest of the week. So if you want to watch, if you want to listen, the best place to do it is I'll drop this over on Twitch also, and you can, if you have a Twitch app, you can go watch that and listen to that in the background while you work. But like I was going to say, let's get this show started. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to DYOR Live on the DYOR Media Network. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Striking, here in the digital media world. It is a Tuesday, July 11th, and if you can believe that the year is halfway over, then I'll sell you some snake oil out here in the great heartlands of the USA. I'm back in the US after a stint in Canada. I'll be doing some shows from here for a while, and then I'll be off to Florida for a little bit to, as they say, see the parents and do some work from down there. But it's been a little bit since I've been on the air before. They had the holidays here in the U.S. And in Canada. Independence Day for the U.S., Canada Day in Canada. And basically nothing gets done. Nothing gets done at all, and including our shows. We didn't have a lot of shows during that time. I was off doing some family stuff, doing some vacation type things. But the holidays are over. The holidays are over, my friends, and as I say every week in crypto, man, this has been a crazy week. And I'll just refer to the past few weeks as a crazy week because it has, with the news going on and this type of stuff. And there's a lot coming up this week. Today I don't have a guest on the show because it's literally everybody's on vacation. But I'm going to have, later in the week, I believe Thursday, I'll have Anton Golub on to talk about this new DAO that he's starting with his friend Michael Ray in Switzerland, the Swiss Asset DAO. And so I'll have him on to talk about that and starting a DAO that trades real-world assets and tokenized assets under the laws of Switzerland. So that should be a good show. Getting to know how that's going to work, and it's going to be like perfectly legal, set up with the tax structure of Switzerland and everything. So, all we got to do is get some real world tokens to the assets to tokenize, and they'll be all good. Anyway, we'll learn all about that on Thursday, and I might have another guest for you Wednesday or Friday, depending on people's vacation schedules. Let's just say that coming on in the morning on my show is not everyone's highest priority, but I do have thing that everyone always wants to know is what is BTC going to do this week? So that means I've got the shows. I used to say guest analyst, but I got to stop saying guest analyst because Pedro's on all the time. I'll just say the show's analyst here, Pedro Garcia, the crypto chart analyst. Pedro, how you doing?
I am well, and you guys?
Well, I'm listening to all our huge amount of fans just saying, "Yeah, way, Pedro, woohoo!"
That's funny. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. We'll just jump right into the market here real quick. So, I want to point a couple things out here real quick.
All right.
Market, which I
Let me
find
get you up here.
really interesting. And I'll just, because with what we're seeing and what's actually happening, kind of is really kind of cool. So, I'm going to point out a couple things that we're seeing in the actual market. And then as we talk, it's really interesting. I mean, I know we're going to talk a little bit about the SEC, some of the laws that are being passed around the world globally, right? But being suppressed here. So, and I just find it so epically awesome how, and I was trying to think, why, and this is, and again, this is not necessarily a conspiracy. I'm just trying to understand why certain things are happening in crypto in America versus other places in the world, which typically, it's the opposite, right? Normally when it comes to financial stuff, and America is normally one that's leading that, really pushing that, and trying to make that happen, right? And it doesn't even matter products. It's really just simple, or excuse me, it doesn't necessarily matter the regulatory aspect behind it. It's just in America, it's like, well, it doesn't make money, and is it somewhat safe, and is it complicated? Okay, if it's complicated, even better, right? And so, like, ultimately, like, Bitcoin is kind of complicated to get in, get out. So I'll jump right into it. You can see here that we had a big old spike of volume in comparison to what we've seen previously, right, back in March. And we saw the market kind of come up, and now we're seeing it kind of dwindle down. We're seeing the market as we're coming into these, and these are a bunch of supply areas, the base where sellers are sitting, that I'm marking out on higher time frames and like weekly, monthly zones that I'm playing with, that I'm looking at to see engage which direction I feel through. Oh wait, actually, I can't say that. This is all educational and
exactly.
This is all educational. This is not financial advice. Educational and entertainment purposes only. Do not take this as financial advice. Okay, so we can see here that when we hit this area here on the monthly chart, we sold off for about a month. We came back up. We found support here on the 8, and now the 8 on the monthly is starting to push up. You can see here that, and I need to make this a little bit bigger. You can see here that this 8 is really starting to trend. We found support last month, and now we're pushing up. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with this. Why is this
there's more lines on that chart than in a box of pickup sticks.
Well, this is important because these lines indicate the weekly and the monthly areas of support and resistance that are coming in that will take over. So if we have a smaller trend down, right, smaller time frame down trend, these higher time frames will signal when it turns around and pushes back up. And so that's why I have these lines basically indicating. Now this is the monthly chart, so it looks more like spaghetti, but the key is that it lets us know when we're going to see a turnaround. Now, when we go into the daily and the smaller time frames, we'll see them broaden out, and you won't see the as many of these. These are basically like my road signs, which direction the market wants to go and turn around. So you can see here when we're playing with the daily here, the weekly, we're finding support on this 89. You can see that it was acting as resistance, but now that we've closed above it, it's going to act as support. And so I thought we were going to come back down to the 27 to the 25 area here where these moving averages are sitting, but we're not. We're kind of just chilling here. So I'm shocked that it's not. As you can see here, we had the push up of a couple weeks ago, and then and similar that we saw in May, where we saw this huge push up and then sell off. I personally think it's probably going to come down into these lower levels like we saw here back in May, and then we saw it push up.
All right.
These areas here again still act as resistance. So this 32 to 30,000 mark is still areas of resistance. We haven't even really come up and tested the higher 32,000 mark. So as a weekly area, I sit there and I go, it's just showing signs of weakness because we're pushing up, yet we're seeing volume drop off. So as we continue up, if we see volume dropping off, this is something that is an indication that it's most likely going to turn around, because that means there's not enough buyers coming in, which means that there's sellers then probably coming in taking the other side. Okay, now this is the part that I brought up with America. So America is really our currency is the world's reserve, and it is the highest denomination of purchasing power in most places.
All right.
If America gets really, if America understands what crypto really is, they're going to run into it for safe haven. It's going to be a lot of money. People are going to figure out how to get in and how to get out of it. Hence, pushing up the value, because we are one of the strongest still. Granted, we're going down, but our cryptocurrency, but our currency is still strong. So when we buy something, even a poor person here in America is extremely wealthy in comparative to the majority of the world. I know it sounds crazy to think about, but our poor people are rich. And so when they buy something, they're going to, or with their disposable cash, even it may be a small amount, it's still quite a bit in comparison to the rest of the world. So I feel like our banks and as well as our government, they don't want to see crypto explode yet. Like I keep saying, they want it low right now because this is where they're buying in at. And so I believe they're trying to suppress crypto right now simply because they want to buy in at these low levels. Because I keep talking about
I agree with you on that.
When we look at the levels in which I keep saying we'll see Bitcoin in the next 10 years, like a $1 million Bitcoin in 10 years, 12 years, it's very conservative. It's very conservative.
Better stack some sats then.
Say again?
Yeah, I said then we better get started stacking the sats.
Yeah. That's the issue, is that how do we sit there buy crypto without getting flagged? Because the U.S. government has many times come in and done eminent domain. They've come in and they've taken gold in the past. They've crafted a narrative that they will say, oh, this is bad, we're going to vilify anybody. And they've done this in the early 80s and 70s with the sheiks. We've done this into the 80s and 90s when the Cold War ended, right, with Russia. We then did it and with 2000 with Iraq, right?
Yep.
So this isn't anything that's a narrative, or this isn't anything past what we see and have done in the past, right? This is something that we do see our government do. So if they can't push this down like they're trying to, or suppress it, they're gonna figure out a way to really crush it. And if that is simply saying Bitcoin is for drug dealers and Americans cannot buy it or hold it or keep it, or it's against the law, like they did with gold back in the day. We forget that back in World War II, we put Japanese Americans who were here for over 100 years into internment camps.
Right.
Like,
there's very few people that even know that anymore.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Like these are like really, people are like, wait, what? Like, yes, like 90 years ago, your great grandpa's age. Like, he was just a kid when this was happening. Like only, and if you don't even have to be a history buff to know this stuff. Just go look at the government's history. There's a litany of atrocities that our government has done to us, the American people, to keep control or to steer the mindsets. Because we learned a lot from Germany. They learned from. Anyways,
Pedro, we're going off on that tangent again.
All right. Anyways, long story short, we're seeing here, we're coming back, and we should be testing this area here. We're finding support on that monthly, on the monthly area here. I think we will see a sell off down into this 28,000 to 26,000 again. We are seeing the buying power starting to sell off. We're not seeing a lot of volume come in. That's continuing to push this up. If you look at the weekly zone, again, we have this 32,000 area to 30,000 area here, where it's going to act as resistance to push price down to this 26,000, 25,000 area. So this is important to be paying attention to. The 20,000 mark area, we should see sellers step in again and possibly push us up to either a peak of a double top or potentially higher high. So we'll find out what happens there. But I think this is going to come up where we're going to see a turnaround for the rest of the year because we're at that mid-year point. So I feel they are going to turn it around. And from here, we'll start to see lower lows again. So be ready for that if that does happen. If we do continue higher, the next resistant level is going to be this 32,000 mark area again, because this right here, not only is it with a supply zone, but then which are sellers sitting here, but then we also have a 100 period moving average sitting here on the week. And so this is going to act as strong resistance to push price down even lower. Yes, that's it in a nutshell.
Now, we've talked before about this, and I'm going to bring it up again because it seems like every week the people's sentiment changes. The ETFs are taking everything by storm here. It's controlling the news cycle, and everyone's like, oh my God. And if you pay attention to Twitter or even many posts on LinkedIn, people are saying it's a very bullish situation. But I want to know what your thoughts are on why do they're saying it's bullish because institutions will buy it. It'll bring so many more people into the market. All these people can just go and pick up their phone and buy Bitcoin now. I mean, even BlackRock can, Larry Fink can pick up his phone and just buy $200 million of Bitcoin in just a few seconds, I don't know why everyone thinks it's going to be such a bullish thing, and I can't figure it out. I mean, it can't get. I mean, there's two things going against it. People can just buy Bitcoin directly without the fees associated with going through BlackRock because they're not going to do this for free. And two, BlackRock with their iShares can create shares and sell them short. Thus, since they're be trading on Nasdaq, guys, I should say, people will be able to arbitrage between the actual price of Bitcoin and the fund, and whether that stays at 1-to-1 or there's a ratio over time of how it is will remain to be seen. But why? I don't understand why everyone thinks it's so bullish, and I want to know what how you've seen the charts kind of react to the ETF talk.
So I feel like as if the common public doesn't really fully understand what that means. So you would think that if this was such a bullish, I think that, again, this is a narrative because this is not what we're seeing in the charts. Like with that amount of bullish news saying the institutions are coming, right? The British are coming.
Right.
Are coming, right?
Two lights in the church.
Two lights in the church, exactly. You would think that, look at this volume push. You would think it would definitely be pushed up. People, like, it's a narrative that's being pushed to the ignorant public to get them to be able to start buying if they are. I think the actual chart itself, it's way overbought right now in comparison to where we should see it down. I've already talked about it being down here. So the narrative that they're saying is, oh, it's going to be good. They're trying to sucker people in, at least the public, to try to figure out a way to be able to get into it. Now, I personally think that they're going to go through and drop it, just like we saw when Bitcoin was first introduced to the public, right, through the futures, with the CME. Literally 2 weeks later, I think it was a week or 2 weeks later, it went up and it dropped from 20,000 all the way down to 10,000, and then hovered there for a while, and then dropped again to about, what was it, like 5,000, then 3,000, down support at 3,000, and then rallied all the way back up to 68,000, 69,000. This is important to understand. Banks will never buy high. Even if it's still a discount, they are going to push it as far below as they can. And they will just hammer it. And this is another one that we're going to see Bitcoin, because ETFs do not want to buy. They don't want their ETF within the first year to be negative. How is that going to look when they're trying to sell it to the public? Oh yeah, you know what I'm saying? So they're going to push the market down first as they're buying up for the first 6 months. What happens in the next 6 months, 6 months to 8 months right now? Bitcoin halving, right?
I guess that's a good point I hadn't considered. Is that the timing of it? They if the Fink and crew are going to sell their own fund short to push the price down, they'd only want to do that at the beginning of setting the whole thing up. They don't want to. They don't want to do that later on, because later on they want to sell more people into their fund and the price to rise and all that type of stuff. Yeah. Or, you know what? I don't know a lot about this. It may not be. Some of these funds may not be just purely price plays. They may be net asset value. And so if the fund moves the market back and forth and snipes the market and not snipes the market, the swing trades the market. And day trades it, and then the net asset value goes up. That may be different. I don't know how these funds are structured that way. I read the application but didn't get too much into the weeds. But if they're able to, if the fund is based on net asset value, and they can make money by selling things short, then people don't care about the price of Bitcoin. All they care about is whether they have volatility. And so if BlackRock and the other ETF guys can push the price down and then pump it back up and then push the price down and pump it back up, then they can make a lot of money doing that. But the SEC wants to watch them for market manipulation. So there's a fine line. It's like in politics. It's, when they say it's just horse trading for political favors versus bribery, it's like, where's that line? And so the same with the manipulation of the market. If they come out and say, all right, let's short sell a whole bunch to push the price down, in the eyes of the SEC, is that manipulation or is that just strategy?
It was interesting. I was thinking about how one of the biggest issues of the monarchy in France, when you started in the French Revolution, right, was that they underestimated the populace of just getting pissed off and killing off all the high officials, right? Let them eat cake, right? And it's interesting to think that I feel like the SEC potentially could be almost, it was like it's their temperature gauge, or at least a way for them to make it look like they like the SEC is looking out for us. That the overall,
right.
You know what I'm saying? So that the monarchy can sit there and, I know America doesn't have a monarchy, but we do.
Yeah.
That keeps them in check to where it allows them never to be able to sit there and say, let them eat cake. I don't, you know what I'm saying? And that sounds weird, but it's just something, just a thought that popped in my head to go, potentially it could be, like the power at B, who sat back and watched the revolution happen and go, okay, we screwed up there. How do we?
Oops! Hey, we need to fire that guy.
Right, and then so in the future they thought, well, how do we keep that from actually happening? Oh, well, we need a governor over us at times to be able to help us see reality. Maybe, right? I mean, but then SEC gets hungry and fat.
Right. I want to give a quick shout out here to. My comment system isn't working today with my Google extension or Chrome extension that handles that. Decided not to load today. But anyway, I want to say Funny Donald, who I know through Telegram comments, and he usually does voice comments because he does it in Donald's voice. Nobody likes selling things short because short people are tremendously weak. I try to do it. I can't do the Donald Trump voice. Tremendously weak. Believe me, people like tall and handsome people like me. Speaking of cake is on sale at $1.51, but hugely prefer using the Novation Cell-less decks. Man, that was a plug. You walked me right into that, Donald. You walked me right into reading that right on the air.
I'll show off cake here. I actually, wow.
Pedro does follow cake. Got the chart up and ready to go.
I very much do. I'm waiting for where are my lines on cake?
Now, see, this is a chart I like. I can see it and understand it. As soon as you put all the lines on, I don't understand it.
Yeah, well, I need them lines because those are my roadmaps.
Right.
I've actually called multiple, like, no, don't. Did they remove all my lines? I think they removed all my lines.
It's the lines.
So I'm looking for. It's the lines. The lines are coming. The lines are I have Crow. I'm waiting for this to get down to about 2 cents. 2 to 1 cent here is where I'm looking to buy Crow at. For myself, right? If I do decide I want to do it. But I'm waiting for them to come down, and I actually had this area here marked on my monthly chart. It literally, I remember I was in Moon Rock, man, and we were sitting there and we were talking about the market. They're like, "Where do you see Crow at?" I said, "Why is this?" I go, "Well, I think they want to drop it because again, this is another good institution. Like Crow is phenomenal at getting people to buy, and they're great at marketing, right? And so I feel like as if they want to drop it below, and so there's a. I'm gonna have to go to CoinMarketCap to get the Crow chart.
I mean, I haven't heard. Crow was all the talk. I don't know, 6-8 months ago. I haven't heard squat out of them lately.
Jack, dude, there's so much. There's so many things, man, that are just being quiet. And then and they're being accumulated. That's the other part. Right. I mean, it literally would be smart for like Bank of America to buy out Crow. Like, and then put their CEO as the one still running it. You know what I'm saying?
And speaking of, I also haven't heard anything out of crypto.com either. I mean, I think they wisely just ducked their heads down and just said, "All right, let all the duck hunting happen over our heads right now, and we'll just be quiet while all the market and regulation and all that stuff's a mess."
Yeah, what happened? I feel that's exactly what they did, because they're right there. And the CEO, isn't he American or Canadian?
I don't know who the CEO of crypto.com is. I did, but I don't anymore.
Here we are.
Like I said, I haven't followed them at all. They've had no news. They've been quiet. I even have a crypto.com account that I basically only use to onboard BNB.
So that's funny.
Donald's still at it here in the background. I balanced my plug with cake bigly and strongly, believe me. He says it's because Crow ate some crow. Oh, that pun sucked. I agree with you, Don. That pun did suck.
I'm going to point this.
Ladies and gentlemen, the quality of our show goes up every day here. Just
It's amazing. I love our show.
Well, it's Tuesday, but it's the first show of the week, and it's the first time I'm back in Chicago, and we don't have a guest, so we're just rambling on here. I did want to talk about one of my default topics always is scams and all that, and after I do a sponsor break in a little bit, we'll talk a little bit about that. But Pedro, what are you showing us here?
So for me, right, I'm looking at Crow at these levels. So like I said, I pointed out here, this was, I think when I did this, I pointed, it was actually on my show when I did this. I believe Crow was coming up here, and we were seeing the sell-off. I think it was at 17 or 15 cents, and I go, we should see Crow because there's a moving average sitting right here that it hit. I think it was the 8 moving average that it hit, and it hit it to a T and then sold off. So I said the next buyer point, it would be down at this 4 to 2 cent mark. This is really where, and then I've just paid attention to seeing where it's going to come down to. And I think they smartly, bigly, wise, I don't even know if I used that word correctly, but
it's crypto. No one cares.
Yeah, dude, but like, what I'm trying to say is we could see this potentially come down to this 4 cent to 2 cent mark area. I do think they'll come down here to the 2.6 cents area for Crow. I haven't done the full analysis of this, but I did point this out while it was all the way up in this level here back in September, that we should see it come back down to these lower levels here. In relationship to that, when you're looking at the chart at these levels, you can sit there and see that it's definitely moving in a way where it's going to continue down. Arbitrum, there's the other one. I think I was in CoinMarketCap or Coin Launch Lounge there, and I was talking about Arbitrum and its movement and stuff like that. And I have a buddy of mine who actually trades this a lot of like 3 or 4 times a day. But I was explaining to him like they're accumulating. Like this is I think this is gonna I think this will replace. Um, I know it's gonna sound and piss off a lot of people, but Binance. I think this is an American's business. These people here um, they're smart. The U.S. government can come in here, and their chain is big. They're well known all over. So I very much think we saw ARB come around the same time when they started attacking CZ. Now I'm not saying that the ARB management is that. I just think our government's going to use ARB as a way, as an American business. Sooner or later, I think they'll have somebody come and knock on their doors, plural, management team, and they'll say, look, this is what we want from you. Just the same thing that we saw with Facebook when the CIA came and knocked on their door. Same thing what happened with Twitter, right? The CEO Jack Dorsey says like CIA came knocking. I wasn't about to fight them. Like, right? Like,
I know. I know what you, not to get off on a conspiracy theory sidetrack, but I worked with a guy a while ago. He was a much older gentleman. He was in his second career. And it finally came out that he, as they say, worked for the State Department for 30 years, and both he and his wife did. They're a very interesting couple. And I said, at the time I was not living in Chicago, but I said, I have to go visit Chicago because my friends live there. And the guy said, I lived in Chicago for about 6 years. I love it there, blah, blah, blah. I said, wait a minute. I said, when did you live there? He said, it was back in this time frame. And he said, my daughter went to university up in Wisconsin and stuff like that. And I was like, wait a minute. It doesn't jive with time. That means you lived there when you worked in your State Department job. And he just smiled and he goes, yeah. And I said, but we're not supposed to be operating inside the country, right? And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, I was like, but if you lived in Chicago and worked for the State Department, that means you're doing things in the U.S. And he goes, maybe. I was like, It's like, that doesn't make sense. Apparently it does.
They are their own entity.
I know.
Own entity.
All right. We can get the the YouTube algorithm going crazy on different things. You have 59,000 views from News Nation.
Oh well, I did hear that. What's funny is I'm into all these working out things on Twitter, and I look at all this stuff, right? Like working out and how to, just because and this thing kept popping up along all of my all on the Twitter accounts. If you work out and are in shape, you're a white nationalist. Like, have you heard this yet?
No.
Yeah, I guess if you work out now and are in shape, you're a white nationalist. You're a racist. And I was like, what? What is going on? Like, how is this possible? Like, I'm a Mexican. I'm first generation Mexican, man.
That's like the note that the FBI put out saying, hey, be aware of these signs that could be a white nationalist terrorist type person. And it said they have a Betsy Ross flag with the 13 stars on it. They have this phrase. I forget what the phrase was, but it was like "live free or die" or something like that, which the entire state of New Hampshire has on their license plate.
Say, that's actually your guys'.
Right, and a couple other things, and the Senate had enough of this shit. They said, all right, they hauled the FBI director in, and for a hearing, and I don't particularly like Ted Cruz. I think he's somewhat of a grandstander, and he pandered to Trump during that whole thing, and anyone that pandered to Trump, sorry, Funny Donald, if you're still listening, but pandered to Trump is an asshole. But he said, FBI director, he said, "Sir, here's a picture of the Capitol building where we sit right now. What flags are flying over the front of it?" And it was all the Betsy Ross 1776 flags. and and then he said, "What's the phrase that you said means probably a terrorist?" And he said, and Ted whips off his cowboy boots that he's wearing and puts it on the dais. And it says, "Look what I have engraved in my boots." And it was that phrase. He said, "I wear these in the Senate every day. Are you telling me that terrorists are walking through the Senate and I'm one too?" It was hilarious. It was so awesome. And then it was another one. It's like if they have a sticker on the car about the Second Amendment, something like that. Ted says, "Here's my car." Picture of his car has a bumper sticker on the back of it about the Second Amendment, stuff like that. It was so funny. I was like, yeah, one hand of the government, not talking to the other.
But the CIA is its own entity. They can, and I agree with Ted Cruz in that. Like half of America were terrorists, or are terrorists, according to a lot of the stuff that is going through. If you believe, anyways, I mean,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, but anyways, when I look at the markets and I see kind of like this stagnation that we're seeing right now, it's just kind of chilling. It's really kind of cool to sit there and go, it hit my zone. Like I actually had this zone with Matic right here. You can sit there and go on one of my videos. And I literally have this area here. This is another area that I really like from Matic.
When was that?
This was...
I can't read that date.
July or June of 22.
Oh, right. I remember when it went down then. I knew it was. I knew that I was watching it too. Not like you do. I was watching it more of a different way, and I'm like, they're going down. They're going down. And my buddy was buying tons of it. And I'm like, dude, wait till it goes down. He said, "How did you know?" And I'm like, I didn't. I'm like, I'm not Midas here. I mean, I don't know these things. I just had that feeling looking at it and the way the market was talking about it. I'm like, it's going to be a sell-off. And sure enough.
Yeah. I told him. I remember sitting there going, all right, we're hitting this monthly zone here. It's in this zone right here. Like, and I know this is going to sound weird because it did blow through the zone, but it closed right at it. So look, it rallied up, came down, rallied up, and then look. This was a 4-month period. Started here, 1, 2, 3, 4. But you can see it. It's like in plane. And this is why I always say, like, this area here, when you start to see a moving average on a monthly zone and a monthly, like, resistance level on a zone and a moving average, these are huge indications saying most likely it's going there. They take out all the stops, then they're going to sell it off. That's it. When the buyers stop, okay, then that's when you see them come in, and you saw it. Like, look, big push up, but look, then the buyers, the huge sell off comes in, boom, and then you see it start to sell off.
Right.
So, anyways, it's nice. It's the beginning of the month here, right? So we see that we gapped down, went down. We're coming back up in Matic to see another sell off. We'll push up for half the month. Next few days, we'll probably see a big push up here, and then see it sell off. That's it. And then come back down into these areas here.
Is that the last kind of sell-off of Matic on your chart? Is that related to the SEC dumping all over them and calling them a security and all that?
Absolutely. I mean, it wasn't done accidentally here. Like they like a lot of these specifically, like, were designed. Like, look, who's buying right here? Obviously the us, but then as well as, dude, you have banks coming in. I mean, the bank said, these are what we want to buy. We want you to go through and point these out. Set. It's that simple. I know it sounds almost like childish, but I have a friend of mine who works for a major a major bank, and he was telling me, or he did work for a major bank, and he told me, he goes, dude, they're like big kids, like they're childish big kids who have billions of
tons
dollars.
of money. Yeah.
And they think they rule the world. They think they're untouchable, and they are pretty much to an extent. Like he goes, you know, the CEO, as long as a CEO of Goldman Sachs or board of directors at I don't know, the SEC, the Fed, one of the Fed executives, right? They sit there and they talk back and forth, saying, okay, so we need these amount. This is what we're gonna do, and it's a very simple process. The only complication comes in is in the manipulation of the narrative that is told to the public. But it is as simple as, I want Matic down here because we want to buy, us banks want to buy it down at these levels here, so we get the cost base at its lowest. Sounds crazy, but it's true.
Sorry, I just paid a little attention to the social media there. One second. And someone's spamming this.
Oh, spamming.
Not our thing.
I've at one point in time, because I was new to crypto, and I would spam live shows. But you know, lesson learned.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have had our thoughts on the market here. I literally could talk about it all day. The market has been crazy, but time to hear from our sponsor, as they say. And we're going to hear from, as you know, over my head here, Auditchain is the sponsor of our show here. Oops, wrong button again. Is the sponsor of our show, and all of the original content here on the DYOR Media Network. And I got to tell you, they're right on the edge of breaking through. The company has developed their software, paid for it themselves, developed their software, has tested it, and is now starting the sales process to get it out there and get some customers. And while it's it does have a token based with it, I'm not telling you to go buy a token or anything like that. I'm telling you to pay attention to the company which audits financials of companies that file publicly with the SEC or with ESRA, whatever it is in Europe, and really 60 other jurisdictions of the world that use standard reporting technology. And so they're able to work on that, show people in seconds where, you know, fleets of, I don't know what the best way to say it is, auditing consultants take days, weeks, and months to figure out. This thing figures out in seconds where companies have made mistakes on their filings. And it brings a whole new light to, or I should say clarity and transparency to the filings, which before people never really paid that much attention to because they were long and complicated. But now when you can get a quick summary of it and see what's wrong, it's really I should say an eye-opener, especially when balance sheets don't balance. And sometimes they don't balance to the tunes of billions of dollars. And analysts miss this. And it's something I think the short sellers would really like to have, a tool for them to see as soon as the filing comes out, the good and bad parts of it. But anyway, I've gone on long enough talking about it. I'm just going to go ahead and, as they say, play. Oh, my mouse. Where's my system? Is slow today. Play the ad, of course, listening to me talking about it some more.
Most of you know that crypto exchanges have been taking a beating about transparency, and many groups out there are trying to solve that. But Auditchain has already done that. Auditchain's protocols and network of validators can mathematically prove that a company's entire financial state, not just proof of reserves, but a proof of state, and whether or not that company is providing accurate reporting and information to the respective government regulators and to the public. Seriously, you and I can check crypto companies and traditional companies' financial reports for transparency and accuracy using a logic and reasoning engine called Pacioli that records its output where? On the blockchain. Seriously, ladies and gentlemen, blockchain technology is now able to be used to check on traditional companies. Behind me is a list of companies that comprise the S&P 500, S&P 100. In essence, the largest US companies by size. More than one quarter, 29 out of 100, have problems with their reports. Remember, accounting and other corporate systems are garbage in and garbage out. So if there are problems with the data out for these companies, in red here, what does that mean? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. There are problems with the data going in. And this was figured out not by accounting or auditing firms and fleets of consultants. This was compiled and reported on by Auditchain's Pacioli validating nodes and took only 5 minutes. It's revolutionary and it's a disruptor technology. Auditchain.
Didn't automatically cut. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again to Auditchain, bringing us into the second half of our show today. The first half, we talked a lot about the markets, what's going on, a little bit of conspiracy theory, a little bit of truth. Fine line between the two, but Pedro and I went at it for a while. The second half of the show, we're going to talk some smack about things, but one of the topics I wanted to, I mentioned in the thing today, in the body of all the social media stuff, was the scams going on. And there's a couple of big ones. And like, Pedro, did you ever use AnySwap, their new name, Multichain?
No, I can't say
I didn't either, but apparently millions of people did. And people are, as they say, in the back here, I've got Wrecked.News' article up. People are getting wrecked. I don't have a good grip on the story here about it, but people are just basically the whole. It's like if PancakeSwap all of a sudden turned rogue and started taking money out of people's wallets. It's really weird. They're up to the total, just I think it's here in the article here, $126 million. And they've taken 50% of the funds out of the Phantom Bridge and 80% out of the Moon River Bridge. And they can't stop it. And so everyone says, is it the insiders? I guess say AnySwap didn't have a good reputation because they were hacked a while ago for $8 million. I think it was 2 years ago. Yeah, it says right here in the ad, 2 years ago. And then a bunch of their stuff in the early 22 was found to be vulnerable to an approvals draining attack. And I always like to tell people is go to one of the sites, and I have videos on it on DYOR. And now there's a million of them out there on YouTube. Find one and say, learn how to revoke authorization, revoke token approvals. And there's sites, there's Etherscan can do it, BSC Scan can do it, Beefy can do it. There's a bunch of sites now that do it. One of the best ones is unwrecked.net. To just revoke all permissions in every wallet to everything that you have, because you never know when something's going to go wrong with it. Especially as I talk about on these shows, I talk about on Rugged, Ruined, and Wrecked all the time. Anything that's a bridge. I have a whole episode about how bridges go wrong, and how just having a decent smart contract that does one thing more than buy and sell is difficult security wise. But then having a smart contract that sits on two different chains, bridges the tool to, has liquidity pools, has to figure out the pricing between the two, wraps things, burns things, mints things, all this type of stuff is enormously complicated. And because a majority of the code is just out there, it's either in GitHub and people are using it, or the code is mostly viewable to people. There are entire nation states that sit there and just try to figure out how to steal the money from it. And eventually, with many of them, it's outsiders like a nation state or a big hacker group that finds the flaw. A lot of times it's someone inside the company that finds it and steals.
What's a nation state?
A nation state like North Korea, Russia, Iran, that type of stuff. a group that's a state or a nation, but really they're just a large organized crime family. Anyway, I'm going on and on about this because I want to remind people you gotta revoke permissions, especially when you use bridges. And if you use it all the time, switch wallets up. Don't if you have tokens that cost money to transfer one wallet to another, that's an issue. But generally, don't use those on bridges. But all the major coin tokens, BNB, ETH, Matic, yada yada yada, that type of stuff. Do your transferring around and bridging and sending it through Blockbend or Tornado Cash or whatever from different wallets, wallets that you use for transactions, not your main wallet where you store everything. So if for some reason you use Blockbend or Blockblend, what is Blockblend, whatever, or any mixer service or a bridge for that matter, do it from a wallet you don't have all your stuff stored in, because all it takes is that bridge to get hacked, and you have approved that for the maximum amount of transactions. When you hit approve for a transaction, if you look on the MetaMask or SafePal or Trust Wallet, it says for the amount of tokens you're approving it, and it's usually the max supply for whatever you're doing. If you don't change that to just the amount you're doing on that transaction or a little bit more, then you're vulnerable to having all your stuff taken out of your wallet if that contract then gets hacked. So I go on and on about this, and people still keep getting wrecked. I mean, there's a lot of people in this multi-chain thing. They're saying, oh my God, I got my stuff drained out. Literally, people, for a week, people have been saying, revoke all permissions. Whatever wallet you used with this, revoke permissions or move the money out. Move all your assets out of those wallets and start over. People get, Pedro, I don't know about you, but when I first started crypto, I was like, oh yeah, this is my main wallet. The wallet was important to me. I kind of had, the first 6 numbers and the last 6 numbers memorized in the wallet. And then I realized that was bad, keeping everything. And as I started doing these shows and seeing the wreckages, I saw that was a bad plan, and started then, having a series of wallets. One storage wallet that I never use at all, and then transaction ones, other ones to send to and from exchanges, things like that. Not to obfuscate things, because blockchain, you can trace things around, but just so if something gets hacked, all your stuff doesn't get hacked.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I've got like 8. I mean, honestly, it's not even, the biggest thing is that if you get hacked, you're screwed. So if you have it diversified, you don't look at these things in a very open format, saying, okay, if something happens to me, what could be taken, right? Like if you own a bunch of property, each property is under its own LLC, right? It's not, and because of that, if let's say somebody comes in and slips in one of your properties, right, they can only take that property because each other property is separate,
right?
So its own entity. And look at it like that, in the same sense. That property, even though it's underneath and you have all the keys and everything, you want to look at it as if this gets hacked, then they're only taking this property. They can't take 15 other properties because they're all under different entities, unless you keep all your past words and seed phrases all within one thing, and then that gets hacked. And you should talk about security for your online devices versus offline devices that don't connect to the internet, but it's still a data point for you to be able to onload or offload.
Yep.
Absolutely. That's one of those things that I think is really important too. To be able to have those old stuff,
The wreckage continues. It's funny. Usually, Wrecked.news has a good summary of what happens, and they didn't for multi-chain. What's another good one I had lined up here? Oh yeah, overnight, Project Rodeo got hacked for almost all of their ETH, $1 million in ETH, 472 ETH. Bye bye. How did they do it on that? This is one of Arbitrum's biggest hacks so far. I shouldn't say Arbitrum getting hacked, but a project based on Arbitrum.
Yes. There sooner or later, I can see the government coming in, and these are gonna, I really wonder if the government's gonna start coming in and hitting them, even though it has nothing to do with them, but just going after big corporations / blockchains. You know what I'm saying? And allowing them, saying, hey, look, this was on you. This is part of your responsibility. You're going to get a fine. And seeing if that holds up. I'm wondering if the SEC is going to do stuff like that.
It's a good question. People wondering what the SEC is going to do every day. And there's lots of consultants making millions of dollars trying to predict that right now. Lots of them. Lots and lots and lots. Where's that other... I had another good one lined up here. I had this one. Oh yeah, that's right. Somebody was telling me about. Let's see. That's the wrong one. Let's see. Where is it? It's a whole series of scams, kind of like the proof of memes guy that just kept launching things and rugging them, but everyone kept
buying them.
Kept buying them.
Dude. It's brilliant. Like if I was a criminal, which I'm not, but if I was, dude, I would run rampant because you have so many novices, so many people who just there was it was a kid, it was a 12-year-old kid, right? Who basically just rugged, I think, people 3 or 4 times, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the whole. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, that was it. That was the idea of if this is why the government thinks that they need to get involved. It's because of things like this.
Well, this is the Brian Legend story. Used to be Brian Sealer. Changed his name once he was running around from Wi-Fi. But he's an Australian guy that pulled tons of money from projects like Tags Exchange, Vulcan, Finance, something like that. Fitrova, Seifu, Safuu, and he pulled. Let's see. The CEO decides to. Oh man, this description is way too long and complicated. But meanwhile, he's it's one of these devs that all of a sudden is very rich, and you're like, wait a minute, that guy was broke ass a couple of months ago, and now he's buying this $20 million house. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm in the same project he is. And these people started complaining, like, what's going on? Sure enough, all the money's being shoveled out the back door. Let's see, people lost so much, thousands were worth hundreds. Meanwhile, at Vulcan Ranch, the blockchain, all the same investors have close to $40 million locked up into it, but he took all the money out, so all the staked tokens are worth nothing. Oops. Let's see, 300. I thought I had a good summary of this, but the topic I wanted to address by bringing it up was when you see controversy around a project. Well, a lot of times, as they say, all news is good news. So it brings eyeballs to projects, things like that. But in crypto, when you see, I guess the best term is divisiveness between the community and the management of a token and what they're doing with it. Generally, there's a problem with it. And if it's the first time, all right, let's figure it out. Let's dig in. What's wrong? What's going on? Maybe the management's just new at this and they don't have a good idea what's going on. But if it's the second time, then they're like, I don't think everyone's legit here. And if it's the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th time, then there is a problem. And so
that man is brilliant.
Right. He stole all your money 10 times. It's the same thing's going on with this group called Proof of Memes. Usually I don't call out groups that are still trading and things like that on shows because there's, I don't know the whole story. Usually once the project's rug and they get wrecked and all that, there's nothing left. So you can do a nice story on them and nobody cares. But with but with, let's see if I can find the list.
What's their ticker?
It's a chain, as its own chain, POM, proof of memes. Let's see. Let me find the where is that space cleaner round table? There it is. Let me find the list here of what the projects on it. They've only had about.
Wow, look at that. I have that Rapties. Ooh. Yeah, they.
Yeah, if you pull out the whole list of things on.
Wow, they started it from nothing. So yeah, man, that first month, man, it literally. Well, how many X's did it do? All right, 100X.
I don't have you up here. Let me fix that. But if you go to their, if you get on, I don't know which site you're using, but like if you go to Dex Tools or something like that and just search for chains and pull up all the projects on their chain, every one of them's been basically rugged.
Oh, really?
Dude,
it's so epic, too. I mean, it's not epic, but I mean, like they are. It's amazing. It is so amazing, man. When I think about the connery of this. It's not even a word. The shenanigans that actually happen in crypto. Like if you could create a whole entire chain, and then within that chain, you can then launch your own projects where you rug people.
Yes.
Right, like because you look, there's this valid there's this thought of validity if you have your own chain, right? Like you're not going to put all that money into this if you're going to, there's no way you would do that. Like you said, look, if we create a chain, we take our money, we create a chain, we could literally do this every single time and nobody would catch it.
Well, one of the things they were doing, I can't find. A guy sent me a list of all the ones, and I it's coming back on.
That's so interesting. That is brilliant. I mean, it's not. I should stop saying brilliant, but like that is, and this is an American guy.
Yeah, he's in Michigan. Yeah, he's fully doxxed. Everyone knows who it is. I'd bring up the comments in the forum, but I can't do it. But anyway, so the people that have all been scammed got their own Telegram room together, and they're tweeting people stay away from this. I mean, I'm not saying anything that isn't already public information here. I'm just repeating what people's opinions are on the internet is the best way for me to describe that. The guy got to the point where he always tweets something really stupid. And so his recent stupidity says that all these people are harming me, and tomorrow I'm filing. I gotta find it. It's just awesome. This week I will be filing from this guy Roger Malcolm. This week I'll be filing a class action lawsuit against 15 individuals that continued nonstop defamation and attacks on my personal life and on my businesses. Your time of running anonymous or knowingly making false statements against me is over. And people are posting below that. Ooh, pick me, sue me. And when devs really get crazy, they start saying, we're going legal, we're doing this legal. First of all, the guy, if you could see it, it says, this week I'll be filing a class action lawsuit. That people don't file class action lawsuits. A class of people get together and sue an individual as a class. Is like all the victims of pollution, all the victims of asbestos, that type of stuff, or all the victims of a scam. And so the thread goes on to say, hello there, buddy. Actually, all of us, the investors, will be getting together as a class and filing suit against you. And what people don't realize is that when you sue someone, there's this thing called discovery. And if you say, I've been harmed by it, then you have to prove that. You can't just say, I've been harmed. You have to, and you don't just prove it to your own lawyers or to the judge. You have to prove it to the other side, and you have to give them all of your information so that they can comb through it too and confirm that, yes, you were harmed or no, you were not. So you have to give all your information out into court, which is available for whom? The IRS to review. That's right. And so if you're going to threaten to sue somebody over crypto, over finances, you have to be absolutely right. You have to be right. You have to truly believe that you were harmed, and not just grandstanding on Twitter. Because people will call you out. Because a lot of times people are anonymous on the internet, and a lot of the guys that are anonymous on the internet are jokers and misfits. But a lot of them also are businessmen or practicing, trial attorneys. And they're like, no, this is not how this works. But anyway, the proof of means disaster. In fact, Vault Finance almost got involved with that. With the proof of means guys. Unfortunately, they were just too scammy, even for the CEO of Vault Finance, who ended up scamming his own team.
Bro, this is so nuts.
It just can go on. Just goes on and on. And I got in my DMs right now. I've got Jonah from Anani Docs on saying, "Hey, I would like to come on. I'm waiting for my invite to talk about scams and rugs." And so I think either Wednesday or Friday we'll have Jonah on to talk about scams and rugs and crypto.
It is fun. Honestly, I shouldn't say that. I mean, it's because people are really being hurt financially. But what I mean, though, is this is like the wild, wild west of finance right now. Like, this is literally just the craziness of the wild, wild west back in, the 1800s, where there really wasn't any law, and you have your sheriffs. What I think was going to be really interesting to see who rises up and what rises up to actually stop this, right? Because I don't think it's going to be a government that's going to be able to do it. We're sitting there, we're watching the SEC, one of the most powerful government agencies in the world, right? That a lot of the other agencies around the world follow. And they really can't do much, right? Worldwide. And I wonder, like, in any time we see this stuff start to happen, like right now, like in California, people are starting to get really upset with all the lawlessness that's happening, right? Of all like the car break-ins, everything that's happening there, right? People are going through, and they are, what's the word I want to use? They are starting to fight back in a sense, right? Like, dude, we're seeing people now starting to carry guns. We're seeing people now starting to shoot people, right? Even though it's not in it's not in the news. But, like, people are carrying out in San Francisco, regular people who are literally law-abiding citizens are like, no, we're just tired of this. I wonder what in crypto is going to take that place where it's like you're going to have this vigilante. Yeah, I'm sorry. Vigilante group that goes through and just gets established. I wonder if that's going to happen. What are your thoughts?
I think you're right on that, because, as they say, the market always sorts itself out in the long term. The short term, the market is especially new markets like digital assets, has all sorts of issues, things that the market needs to learn. And when I say the market, I kind of want to say that means a collective thought of everyone that's in the market. Not, it's not computers, not yet, making the decisions for you. But the market sorts itself out, and it brings in every tool it can to do that. And so I would say that there will be, well, there's already there. I mean, you can see it from the white hat hacking groups that are springing up in crypto. They are coming, and as the tools to analyze the blockchain get more ubiquitous and easier to use, and more thorough, a lot more companies have popped up because more people understand it, and they're acting as vigilantes. And there's people. What I really love is when they kind of spot a exploiter being used, an exploiter smart contract, and they're kind of figuring out its pattern. And then they front run the exploiter's trades, and like where the exploiter is going to take 600 ETH out of a project, and then in the space of the timing of the block, when they see it go in to do that, the white hats counter launch their own exploit to then steal the money from them, or pre-steal the money. And then the exploiter gets 0, but has to pay the huge gas fees because they were going to do. And then the white hats immediately return the money to the person that would have stolen it. And so that's kind of a vigilante thing where, the exploiter didn't get the money but had to pay, a lot of times on those complicated, flash loan type things, they have to pay some big ETH. They have to pay a lot of money for it all to work out at once and at the speed they want. And but you see people beating them to it, so that's kind of a vigilante thing, kind of a a death wish. And there's as they say, there's a fight between good and bad, and the bad usually leads the innovation market, but the good catches right up.
Pretty much, man. I mean, look, there's always the whenever you throw a punch, it leaves you open.
That's true. You got to have a lot of skill not to do that, and I am not one that has a lot of skill. Anyway, we've been on the air for a while today, working out the kinks in the show for the week. Still lots to talk about every day here, and Pedro and I could go on and on, but that's all we have for today, because I've got to get some other things done here. I've already got people signaling to me in my ear and in my DMs all over the place. You're running late, Tom. You are running late. So, Pedro, thanks for coming on today. I really appreciate it. As I said, we should have probably have for sure on Thursday. We're going to have Anton Golub on here talking about Swiss Asset DAO and the future of trading real world assets. In this is right when my wife calls. And then I think Friday I was just in my DMs lining up Jonah from Anonymous to be on here to talk about scams, and he's going to talk about some of the things that they've run into in the projects that they've had people that have doxed to them and still scammed people, and he wants to talk all about that and kind of have fun beating up scammers, which, as everyone knows, I like to do too. And of course, on Friday we'll be looking back to today to see how Pedro did interpreting the charts and what the story that they're telling him, to see if how it played out. And normally it does play out how he says, unless there's some kind of crazy news that fundamentally changes the market. But we'll be paying attention to that and talking about that every day. So everyone, thank you for tuning in today. On behalf of myself, Pedro, and our it looks like about 25 different viewers today on the various platforms. Thank you very, very much for your time, and we'll see you tomorrow. So be there.